Let's go to News Corp headquarters in Surrey Hills now and catch up with the sports editor of the Australian newspaper, Wally Mason. Wally, the big question is the Olympics in Japan. A real cloud over them now. That's a hell of a worry, isn't it?
Real cloud, Chris, real cloud. Yeah, I think, you know, it's quite common to have, you know, we had the Zika virus in Rio, and there's often some concerns about whether Olympics are going to go ahead, but this one's starting to look a bit serious. Yesterday we had Dick Pound, an IOC member, saying that it was a real possibility that the Olympics could be cancelled. And John Coates, our man on the IOC, he basically didn't rule that out. You know, he said we've basically got 2 or 3 months now. I think the end of May is by then we've got to make a decision, or the IOC's got to make a decision on whether the Olympics go ahead. And you know, they may have no choice if the virus is still out of control. They may have no choice but to call it off.
Absolutely. Let's just have a look at what the great former Australian swimmer Ian Thorpe had to say about this today.
I would most definitely be concerned. Looking at the infection rate of being 2.5 times what it is for, you know, a cold, something like this.
Yeah, Ian Thorpe there saying he would certainly be concerned about the Olympics in this environment. Wally, can you tell us whether authorities are looking at all sorts of options, all sorts of contingencies? For instance, is there a means by which athletes could all go into quarantine before arriving in the Olympics or something? Or is the mingling of athletes, coaches, spectators, media and the like all just too much to manage?
I think when you're talking about, you know, 10,000 athletes and you know, as many media and spectators and so forth, it's just too big to consider. Though I mean, I'm sure the IOC and the Tokyo Organising Committee are looking at you know, modelling some of these options, but it's hard to imagine it happening. And Dick Pound said yesterday that you know, it's too big to move. You couldn't postpone it or move it to another city. It's just too much. It's too big. Yeah,
and the virus is global anyway, so moving it is a hell of a problem anyway. Wally, just briefly, another big sports story around today. Essentially, post-mortem diagnosis of the great Geelong ruckman Polly Farmer, revealing that his brain suffered serious disease because of concussions. This is a big issue now in the AFL and certainly will flow through into NRL and other codes.
I think it's a big issue across all football codes, Chris, even soccer. More and more we're starting to see the chickens come home to roost with this sort of stuff. And I think all football codes will be, you know, all football players and all football codes will be looking at this revelation very seriously. It's already had big implications on the NFL in the States, where there have been massive legal settlements with players who have suffered CTE, and I can see the same thing happening in footy codes in Australia.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Wally.
Thanks, Chris.